There will come a time when social distance will once again mean a handshake, a high five, a bear hug, or a kiss on the cheek. Until then, we're here to help the community and the members we've served since 1965. People helping people, lending a hand.
Excellent. I can't stress enough again how amazing of a partner Park Community Credit Union has been for
People
GLI.
do it with beer, people do it with tomatoes, people do it with soy sauce.
I don't like this one at all. I would not serve this one to my family, not even to my worst enemies. I wouldn't serve this one.
Autoplay.
Love that.
You gotta love technology. Well, if this is your first Caffeine in Quarantine chat with your chamber, I do appreciate you joining us, and I definitely appreciate the returns to the event. So just to give you an idea of what to expect, we will provide some general updates as far as GLI, what the chamber is working on, kind of give you a little bit more detail about what the chamber is actually doing for our business community. And we'll open it up for some quick introductions before we just let everyone open the floor with questions and any comments you want to provide. So be respectful of everyone as they talk, and just make sure that you keep your background noise to a minimum, or keep yourself on mute until you're ready to speak. So I do want to quickly address, as GLI is a business-focused organization, we're also obviously part of the community too. And to that extent, GLI's president and CEO, Sarah Davishar-Wisdom, has issued a statement addressing everything that's going on, not only in our region, but across the country. And GLI definitely recognizes the issue at hand. So in this, you will see that we are committed to reaching out to our community leaders, business leaders, and working to strengthen the greater Louisville region for all. So while this is obviously eating up the news coverage right now, we're all seeing the same headlines. What we're hoping is that Caffeine in Quarantine can kind of act as a platform as reprieve from the current climate, same as it did during the height of quarantine during COVID-19. So thank you again for joining us. I do want to quickly let you know also that GLI has reached out to our congressional delegation here in Louisville, urging Congress to give businesses more flexibility on how they pay back their Paycheck Protection Program loans. The quote directly from Sarah Davishar-Wisdom, our president and CEO, is that GLI urges Congress to ease, I'm sorry, I lost my place, guys. Urges Congress to ease forgiveness requirements for PPP recipients to create a more flexibility in how businesses can have their loans forgiven. And we believe that this will help future businesses prevent closings and economic damage. So you may also be wondering what GLI actually does. What does the chamber do? I get that question a lot as I go around and meet with business leaders around the community. So I'll tell you, GLI, we are a regional chamber of commerce. What does that mean? Well, we actually operate within a 15-county footprint. You'll see on the map here, we do have efforts aimed on both sides of the river, Kentucky and Indiana. Greater Louisville is this one big community. I'm sure we all know or are people that maybe live on one side, commute to the other for work. So we're all in this together, and GLI recognizes that. So we do have 4 main pillars with which GLI operates, and you're going to actually hear from some of those representatives of those teams and those efforts on this call. But GLI is an advocate for this business community. We do have a lobbying entity that is active at the local, state, and federal levels, and our direction is all fed by you, our members of our business community. So if there's any issues impacting your business, your client's business, etc., please reach out to our team, and we'll get you in touch with the right folks to talk about that. We also have an economic development arm that is here to help any business grow in this region, move to this region, expand in this region. They are able to help you in so many ways. So if you have plans for future growth, please make GLI one of your first stops to check in with. A lot of great resources available to you, whether you're a GLI chamber member or not. We're here to help grow this community. We also have a talent attraction side, which you'll hear more about. It's called Live in Lou. If you or your HR are not posting your open positions for this area on the Live in Lou job board for free, you're missing out. And then lastly is going to be where we just consider our Chamber of Commerce side. And that's where someone like myself will come in to help you get connected, get networked in, raise your brand awareness, and get in front of the folks you want to be in front of. That's what the Chamber of Commerce is here to do. We're here to help generate business and grow this region. So with that, I want to open it up to some introductions. I'm going to start first with by calling everyone just as they appear on my screen. So I'd like to first bring in Jordan Clemens.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Unfortunately, I won't be able to stay for the whole program today, but I am happy to see everyone. Thanks for joining us. Sarah, good to see you. David, Patricia, everybody on the call, thank you. So my name is Jordan Clemens. I'm Investor Development Manager at GLI. You'd normally see me out and about meeting with our investors, networking everyone at our events, but in light of what's going on, we are doing this now. So thanks for joining us. Our job here is to connect you around the business community and figure out how to help you grow your business. And that's what I do. So thanks for being here. And sorry I have to leave early, everyone.
No problem. Jordan, are you drinking a caffeine of choice this morning?
I'm drinking water this morning.
I respect it. Alana, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Brian. Hi, everybody. My name is Alana Turner. I am also on the GLI team. I am the manager of sponsorship sales for our events. So I work closely with our partners like Park Community Credit Union on just finding the right fit for them within our event portfolio on our website or in our newsletters. So I know that Raymond was not able to join us this morning. He had a board meeting for Park Community Credit Union, but I did put his contact information in the chat box if you'd like to connect with him directly. Park just had some great opportunities for small businesses, and they're just a really strong partner of ours. So we like to give them a good shout out. So please reach out to him if you need anything, even if you just want to chat. He's incredibly inspirational and a great speaker, and I just love to talk to him. So I spoke with him this morning, and I said I would try to be as positive on this call to try to bring his spirit into it. So I'm looking forward to speaking with you all.
Thank you, Alana. And then as you introduce yourself, obviously let us know where you're working. And because it is caffeine in quarantine, if you are drinking a caffeine of choice, please let us know what you're sipping on this morning. So
it's for the reminder, Brian, I am drinking half of an iced coffee from Bean Coffee in Germantown. I I'm typically not a coffee drinker, and I typically don't go out and buy coffee, but I had, my sister recently moved here from New York, and she's still getting settled. So we go out for walks in the morning to get her some coffee because she hasn't fully set up her coffee station at home yet. So I'm enjoying that from a local spot.
well, that sounds great. The weather's cooperating. It's a beautiful morning out right now. David, how are you this morning?
Good morning, Brian. Thank you. I'm a fairly new investor, and I have a venture that's in the process of setting up, building a system here in Kentucky and manufacturing here. It's an ultralight rail venture, working with John Launis on that one. And we're pulling together, we've actually briefed both Louisville Forward and TARC and KIPTA and the Cabinet for Economic Development. So we're going to do another round of briefing them. But this is a unique venture and a unique system because today all of the rail transit systems are disinfected overnight. This will be disinfected whenever a passenger leaves a capsule, and that's never been done. That's just first in the world. And so this is totally pathogen free. It's on demand, as well as you can do it overnight as well. And it's we're in the federal infrastructure budget for $2.06 billion going through Congress, and I'm working to add Kentucky to that, about $1 billion. It's a big deal, about hiring 5,000 folks in West Louisville, and working with John on that. And then I have other ventures. I have two in California. That's one of the two in California. Then I have two here and one in Virginia. So that's what I'm working on. I do disruptive business modeling.
It sounds like you're staying busy, David, that's for sure. And as David mentioned, if you're not a GLI investor, he's actually new to the chamber, and he's been hitting the ground running. He's already been in touch with some folks on our economic development side to help get the ball rolling on everything he's working on. So very excited to be working with David. So thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Brian. It's really important to do economic development now because a lot of folks have been laid off and don't have jobs, and so we need to start working on, creating new employment opportunities. And I have one administrative thing I want to mention to you. When you register, you put in a lot of stuff in that registration that is already in the GLI system. So I hope at some point you can simplify registration so we don't have to repeat putting in our LinkedIn address, blah, blah, blah. Okay?
Thank you for saying that, and I appreciate the feedback. That's definitely something we will look into, no doubt. We'll keep the ball rolling here, and I guess, Sarah, you're next up on the list. How are you this morning?
Hi. So yes, I'm Sarah Kilsman, and this is my first Coffees in Quarantine. So I've got my coffee in hand, but I am a financial advisor with Somnio Capital Solutions, which we're located out of Linden. Somnio actually stands, everyone always says, what is Somnio? What are you saying? And it actually means dreams. So we actually help you plan for your dreams of tomorrow. So I know during this crazy time, we're kind of trying to reach out to those, especially those, like David had mentioned, that have been, furloughed or let go from their companies. And so it's a hard time for a lot of people, and we're just trying to get out there and make sure that they're getting the help they need. So I appreciate y'all letting me be here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining us. And because we have a small group and we're encouraging open conversation, if you also would like to drop your LinkedIn or anything you're promoting into the chat box, please do so. We encourage everyone connecting and staying in touch after this. Next, I'd like to move over to Patricia. How are you this morning?
Just fine. Thank you very much. And I thank you all for letting me participate in the GLI. I'm availing myself of the 90-day free membership. My name is Patricia Pringle, and my company is Japan America Communications. And I provide Japanese language support to global Japanese companies and American companies that do business with global companies. Most of my clients are abroad in the UK, the EU, and in Japan. And occasionally I do work here in Louisville, mostly interpreting. The most recent thing I interpreted was the Waterfront Botanical Gardens is going to have a Japanese garden. So they brought a master gardener from Kyoto, Japan, and I interpreted for him. I recognize that there are a lot of companies that are thinking of doing business with Japan in this local area, and I've not done my due getting around and meeting people thus far, and so this is putting my toe in. And once again, thank you very much for letting me participate.
Oh, very interesting. Thank you for joining us this morning. Obviously, we're in Kentucky where bourbon is king, so I do, that was kind of my first dipping my toe into the ties between Kentucky and Japan, and it goes so much further than bourbon. So thank you for joining us this morning. Christine?
Buddy, I'm Christine Tarquinio. I am a GLI employee, and I do a couple of different things at GLI. One of which you'll see here is I oversee Live and Lou, which is our talent attraction, retention, and development initiative. If you don't already follow us at Live and Lou, you can go to liveandlou.com and connect with us on any of our social channels here. Please do so. I also oversee all marketing and communications for GLI. So that is all of our newsletters, emails, website, social channels, and excuse me, and collateral. So if there's anything that you need in terms of marketing or promotion, please feel free to reach out to me. Oh, yep, and the Crisis Support Hub. This is a new website that that we developed in. Oh, that's inside the PowerPoint. Okay, I was like, the website shouldn't look like that when you first get to it. Sorry, a little confusion there. Got to stay on brand. But we do have a new website, crisissupporthub.com or as a .org. And there's all kinds of information there. If you need PPE as you're returning to work, you can find that information on that website. There's also a FAQ section. There's all kinds of resources. And then if you have any particular questions that you want to ask, you can ask them through that website. I'm actually going to have to hop off and attend another meeting at 10 o'clock, but I'll be on there till then.
Excellent. Thank you, Christine, for making some time this morning. Next, Carla, I see you don't have your camera on, but if you'd like to introduce yourself, you're more than welcome to.
All right. Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you for joining us.
We got in late last night from Florida, so I'm sparing you my morning being in the car all day look. Hi, I am the Director of Organizational Development at a place called IntelliModus. It's an engineering firm downtown, sadly right on 4th Street, right in the middle of everything going on right now. And we mainly do baggage handling systems, the conveyance behind baggage handling systems, parcel and post, so your Amazon packages, your FedEx packages, UPS, and water wastewater management. So we do all that, and we are also in the 90-day trial period as well. And so, yeah, we are just happy to be here. This is my first coffee in quarantine. I make a gigantic cup of coffee that I drink for the majority of the morning from a big to-go cup. So I'm highly caffeinated at all times. But yeah, we're really excited to be here. And if you guys want to connect, I'll put my LinkedIn profile in there and you can learn a little bit more about what I do in organizational development. People sometimes get it a little confused with human resources. And basically, I just really geek out on watching all of our employees succeed and develop and love what they do. So yeah, that's me.
That is awesome. Thank you for still squeezing this in, even though it sounds like you had kind of a chaotic morning. So.
Oh, it's great. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Perfect. And then last but not least, Mr. Charles All. Thank you for joining us. How are you this morning?
I'm hanging in there. Yeah, it's been a busy morning as usual these days. Hi everybody, I'm Charles All. I'm GLI's Director of Public Policy Development. I'm part of our Government Affairs team. One of the main things I do here at the Chamber is I help the organization take positions on public policy issues. I help our members understand these issues and then sort of work through our prioritization process and help us set our goals at the local, state, and federal level when it comes to achieving business or policy, government policy that will help the business community, help our economy thrive. As you can imagine, it's a pretty busy time right now with government policy effectively being turned on its head in a lot of ways and a whole lot of changes in the world of government affairs. And so one of the main things we're doing right now is helping businesses understand what's happening. We do have an advocacy portion of our website, which you can see here. So if you just go to greaterlouisville.com/advocacy, you can access this, and we have a ton of information out there. When you just go to our landing page, we're trying to produce as much information as we possibly can to help people understand what's happening, and also to get a sense of what's coming down the road. And that's obviously a really big deal for businesses right now. So I encourage you to check out this portion of our website, and I'm happy to talk policy or any other issues you all might want to get into.
Thank you, Charles. You've actually already come up. I have a gentleman on here, Mr. David Rumler, I'm going to have to connect you with after this. He has some questions about the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee.
Sure.
Excellent. I'll get you two in touch after this call. Well, again, I'm glad to see everyone this morning. I'm going to hand it over to Alana so we can start having some open conversation and dialogue.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. So this is a more intimate group than we've seen, and I think that is probably for a couple different reasons. We had a lot of folks register, but understanding that there's a lot going on in the world right now, especially in our local community, we expected to see maybe a couple less here this morning. But that being said, I think we can still have a productive conversation, and especially if you all are interested in talking about workforce or economic development or talent attraction or our advocacy efforts, we can certainly discuss those on the line. But we also just like to use this event series, as Brian mentioned, as a little bit of a reprieve from what's going on in the world and just let us have some human connection. So we filter through different topics, each time we talk about podcasts or books, or last time we talked about local restaurants and I walked away so hungry that I think I'm going to put that one on the back burner for at least a while, just because we got some great suggestions, but I was aching with hunger by the time it was over. So this time we'll see a short poll pop up, and we thought it might be good to just talk about self-care and how what you're doing in quarantine, especially now with the current situation. So if you'll fill that out, it's anonymous. I always like to say on these calls, and my colleagues are probably bored of hearing this, but I always try to guess what I think the answers are going to mostly be on these surveys, and I haven't been right yet. So I'm hopeful that we'll see the results. Okay, I was hopeful that this would be the answer. So this is great. I know that self-care looks different for everybody, and some folks do it all the time, but some are really just amping up that piece of their life with the quarantine, and now especially with the protests and the riots that are happening around the world. So I thought we could share some best practices. I know that we've got folks that bike on the call. I don't know if you consider that a form of self-care, but I will kick us off. I mentioned early on that I have been taking morning walks with my sister, and that's actually also with my niece. So that is proved to be a really great form of self-care for me, just to get out of the house in the mornings every day before the day starts. A little bit rain or shine, we're just heading out and just doing a quick loop in the neighborhood, and it's really been helpful for me to kind of center myself and recognize that I can leave the four walls of my apartment. Anybody else have any best practices or innovative ways that they're practicing self-care during this time?
With the weather being so beautiful the last week especially, we've been doing a lot of walks. My wife and I, we'll take the dog around the block in the evening and just get out of the house. We have been known to maybe carry a glass of wine with us during this walk. But it's just great to get out of the house still, get some fresh air and some sunshine, so no doubt.
Guys, here I am. I totally, I think some people think that you should go to therapy when you're in a crisis, and actually when you're not in a crisis is when the real work starts. So I'm a big advocate of therapy, and I've been doing teledoc with my therapist, and he's awesome. So that's been a huge thing every week for us. And then yes, running is my therapy for me. So that's a big one.
I'm curious. I've heard a lot of people using the teledoc. Do you do it over a phone call or is it a video?
So I guess I should rephrase that. We have teledoc at work. So what I do with him is video conference. So it's just like this. But teledoc at work, usually, I don't know if you guys use it or not, it's incredible. They call you, and I think you can do a video as well. I haven't had to yet. I've only called about symptoms like cold or allergies or whatnot, but it's extremely helpful. I'm a huge advocate of it. It's quick and they're really awesome. And oddly, just a side note, they, unlike my doctor, I was trying to get something for, I can't remember what it was something small. And they were like, you can't take this because you're on all these other, and I'm like, oh, well, I've taken it before, right? So they're really thorough is the point I'm trying to make. So yeah, it's both.
That's great to hear.
So I'll talk a little bit. First of all, I just want to point out that one of my ventures here is a telehealth software startup, and for those of you who don't know, telehealth is the broad category. Within telehealth is telemedicine. So those that are practicing telemedicine are doing prescriptions and actually, they're real doctors and psychiatrists and that kind of thing. But the broader category of telehealth, there's psychologists and physical therapists and all kinds of folks like that. And video conferencing is very important to all of those. And anyway, so what do? Besides getting out and walking in the neighborhood when I get a chance, I cycle at Parklands, and now that Blairwood has opened up, I go swimming there. I'm a master swimmer, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon, and that's a goal for me since I haven't been able to do that for 3 months. And that's it.
Did you say Blairwood's open?
Blairwood opened Monday.
Are they doing both the inside and outside pool?
Yes, both the inside pool, Carla, and the outside pool. The outside pool, they're all set up for lanes. There is no recreational swimming, and that won't happen until the end of the month, if it does. But right now, you can get a lane and go do a workout. Are you a
Nice.
member?
Yeah.
Great. I'll see you there.
Yeah, exactly.
David, what kind of bike are you riding?
It's a K2. You know, they make skis and bicycles and that kind of thing.
Cool.
And I've had it for several years. I bought it from REI Co-op when I lived in Silicon Valley.
Nice.
And I still, it needs it needs a little rework, but that's okay. It's a good solid bike. It's a hybrid, so it's both road and off road. Yeah, nice. I actually got one of those. Well, there's one right behind me. My house is starting to like overflow at this point. And yeah, so I have two behind me right now. And there's two in the living room, and my wife is putting her foot down at this point. So one or two of these are going to be for sale in the next day or two, I think. So where do you go, Charles? Oh, I bike everywhere. Yeah, everywhere. But honestly, Southern Indiana, I think is a real just cycling gem in this area. Once you get out to the knobs, you're just away from cars and traffic, and you can just go for miles and miles and miles out there. That's great. I spend most of my time crossing the bridge. But I do Parklands too. Parklands is great. Yeah.
Well, I have been self-employed, working at home for 15 years. So I've developed a lot of different things that probably not possible if you have a 9-to-5 job. But I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and watch the Japanese news and drink coffee at that time and start work generally right away. Because that's when I find I'm the most productive, first thing in the morning. And I work until noon, and I take a nap in the afternoon, and then I go back to work. But that's something I've developed over 15 years. And it's not so useful when you interpret, because you have to be alert throughout a whole day generally. And I've trained myself to be sleepy at 1 o'clock. It's not so useful. But I find working from home as a self-employed person, you have to have some kind of schedule, at least for me. And, I have my goals for the day, my project, my next steps. And I also have to think of things that I can do when I don't have a deadline. So the work I do is very deadline driven. So when I have work, that's all I do. And when I have a free time, well, that's where I have to I have to have something ready to go so I know what's next.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we've been hearing from a couple of people that home has always been their norm. So it's so interesting to learn little things, but I've found the routine is so important. I meant to mention earlier, just based on your work, my husband works for Beam Suntory. And obviously, they're owned by a Japanese company, and they're starting to offer Japanese language classes for all of their United States-based employees. So he's taking advantage of that opportunity because it's complimentary. And we actually spent 2 weeks in Japan for our honeymoon last year. So I love the culture. We're eager to go back as soon as travel is lifted. It was a wonderful experience. So I am envious that you get to stay immersed in that culture for your profession.
Well, it's a wonderful place. I'm glad to hear that you had a great honeymoon.
Mm-hmm. They're incredibly welcoming. Their society is just so, they were so excited that we were there. So it was great. Sarah, any self-care that you do at home?
I've been trying to think of something different than what everybody else is saying. But I feel like the walks have definitely picked up, which has been nice. And finally, it's not raining. But one thing that my daughter, I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son, but one thing we've kind of started doing, especially when it was first, everything was shut down, is we have a weekly spa day or spa evening. So we do our mani-pedis, a little face mask, and it's something to look forward to every week, and she really enjoys it. So that's been a little bit more fun, and I probably didn't have time to do all that but before when I wasn't working from home. So it's been kind of nice.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
I love that. Wonderful. So I know we have a smaller crowd, so if anybody wants to talk about anything else, please feel free to pipe in. Doesn't necessarily need to be about self-care. If you're reading a good book right now that you'd love to share, and also always feel free to put anything in the chat. What we do is we'll pull the chat, all the information from the chat, and put it into a Word doc and send it out after, so that you all have access to all the information that we talked about and everyone's LinkedIn information from Park and all those types of things. So don't feel like you have to capture it all as it goes. We'll make sure you have a good compilation of it at the end.
I have a question for everyone, and this is maybe little off, I don't know if it's off topic, but I'm kind of, so we're hitting the ground running, of course, after vacation and tackling a lot of things, and everything that was going on downtown and across the country obviously was happening when we were pretending like we were in a bubble in Florida and not in reality. But I've noticed that a lot of companies or brands that I subscribe to have been sending out just statements in regards to what's been going on. And I'm curious, we have a pretty small company, so we have less than 100 people. There's actually 3 companies, and Telemodus is only one of them, and we only have about 40 people. And I'm curious if you guys think it's important that leadership send out something to address what's going on. I mean, we've obviously had to say mandatory, we're working from home now, but we've allowed some people into the office. But given where we are, we've told people just this week especially not to be downtown. But I'm curious if you guys expect that from leadership, or if you think it would be inappropriate, what you would expect, if you have gotten that, if you intend on getting it. So being on the leadership team and in charge of company culture, I waffle back and forth. I obviously think we should. And then I know that, my colleagues might say, well, I don't know. And I'm curious as to what you guys think about that.
Oh, I wish Christine would have been on the call still to hear that. She's our head of marketing and communications. I really would have liked to hear her insights. Obviously, GLI did issue a statement, so I can only really speak on our behalf. I do know our leadership felt strongly that as the voice of the business community, especially, we wanted to reach out and just kind of let everyone know that we are still, working with community leaders, business leaders, and trying to touch base with everyone and get on the same page. Now, as far as is that message going to be reassuring to some? I couldn't tell you on that. Someone with a better marketing background should answer that for you.
I think there is a two-pronged approach for organizations for communication, especially during these situations. I think it's one thing to communicate externally, but I think communicating internally to your people is, I would argue, more important a lot of the time. And I can say this because GLI does a great job at this, but I think making sure that your folks know, especially, obviously the current situation is challenging, but also just quarantine, I think, is really, if you're not used to working from home, if it hasn't been a decade-long experience for you, I think it can be challenging. So I do think open lines of communication about, if you need to talk or if you need to unplug. I've heard a lot of companies issuing statements internally, like, we recognize there's a lot going on. The world has a lot of news coming at you. If you're reading it, if you just need to take a step away from your computer and, do something, I think that type of acknowledgement and encouragement to make sure you're taking care of yourself is important for an organization, no matter the size. From an external perspective, I think that is dependent on the nature of your business. So I see some organizations putting things out that I wouldn't necessarily, I was surprised to see a statement, but then they found ways to tie it back to their organization. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. You're not directly affected necessarily by this, but maybe your customer base is, or something along those lines. So I'm always a fan of more communication. And I think it's a sign of strength to maybe say, like, we're still working on figuring out exactly how we're going to respond to this. because at the end of the day, there are people behind organizations and we are just learning, right? Like continually so I think I'm a fan of more communication. So I'm probably in your boat, but I know that there are other folks that are like, let's wait, let's see, let's strategize. But I think saying something, even if it's, we're working on it, we're going to get you something, can be really impactful. Just my perspective.
Yeah, thank you. We had been sending out daily ever since beginning of March, or kind of mid-March, when we all kind of shut down and worked from home. We were sending out daily updates. So we were definitely communicating internally for the coronavirus, for COVID. And we've been doing that kind of periodically. We haven't had many updates, so it's almost like at this point it's becoming a little bit more of the norm. But I was definitely, I know I started by talking about externally. I don't know that that's for us, to your point, that I don't think that that's something that we would do. But internally, I definitely think I'm on the same boat as you. I think over communicating and just saying like, hey, we don't have all the answers. I mean, nobody wrote a book for what we're going through in any capacity right now. And that's kind of how when I have employees call me with questions, I'm like, we're human beings figuring it out. So, be patient with us. But no, I appreciate that, because I think internally is at least just saying, hey, we recognize what's going on. And we have an EAP, an employee assistance program that we always add to the end. Like, don't forget, you have this benefit, call someone, talk to someone. So I think that's really helpful. So I appreciate your all's thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I know as far as the COVID situation, when we all start working from home, our communications, both internal and externally, we're pretty much daily. And those have kind of dwindled down a bit as it's become more of a norm. Our organization is still sending out, I think, 3 external communications each week. Just, hey, here's what we're working on. Here's the situation. Here are links to resources. And then internally, they've just continually touched base with us each week, letting us know what's going on daily if needed. So yeah, communication, I don't think is ever necessarily a bad thing. Or over communication, I should say.
Well, I don't want to hold you all here too long. I know this is set till 10:30. We typically have a couple more folks in here to have a more robust conversation. But I'll be honest, sometimes I like a few less people. You get to really get some extra time with folks and hear from them, and it doesn't feel like you're rushing through introductions or moving too quickly through the conversation. So I appreciate you all being here. And I know that several of you have mentioned that you're taking advantage of the 90-day free trial. So thank you so much for that. We are excited to be able to offer that, especially during this time. It's new for us. I've only been here since January of 2019. We haven't done anything like that, but I think it gives you a great opportunity to just see what the Chamber is working on and engage with these events. So thank you for taking advantage of that opportunity. These are weekly, so we're always here if you need to chat, but if you can't make it to one of these, just know that the Chamber is always here as a resource. Brian or I or Jordan, who had to hop off earlier, all members of the investment team. So we're happy to just talk to folks. We know Zoom fatigue is real. So if you just want to hop on the phone, I know that seems crazy, but we're here and available to just chat. And if you have any questions that you think of, just please don't hesitate to reach out. If anybody has anything else, please feel free to chime in. Otherwise, I think I'll turn it over back to Brian.
Yeah, thank you. Just to add to what Alana said, GLI is still here chugging along. We have our crisis support hub. So if your business has been impacted by COVID, please check that out. There are links on there so you're able to look into PPP or buying PPE if you're in need of that. A lot of great resources on there. You can also get your company listed if you sell PPE. Please let us know. We want to share that information with the business community. Also, our office has been in touch with Metro government, and we are actually letting businesses know that if your business has been impacted by the protests that are going on right now, you may qualify for a low interest loan if you have any damage or anything. So reach out our way. If you have questions, we'll put you in touch with the representative over in their office and sharing that information. And then 90-day membership that's been brought up a couple times. That's something we're still offering for the rest of June. It will go away after that. So it sounds like we do have a few folks utilizing that. We're very glad you are. If there's anyone else you're aware of that, hey, I think you could benefit from getting engaged with the chamber, send them our way. Let me know. I'm happy to get them set up on that so they can take advantage of that before that offer goes away. And then lastly, we obviously still aren't doing in-person events quite yet, but our programming team has been fantastic in getting useful resources up on our website, virtual Zoom meetings and whatnot to keep everyone informed and in touch. So check out our events page, greaterlouisville.com/events. They're always adding new things. So for instance, tomorrow we have a post-COVID consumer trends webinar that'll be going on. The day after that, we have a new look of office space. We will have an update from U.S. Senator Todd Young on 6/11. There's even going to be a discussion with the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis President and CEO Jim Boyard. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I know our team is excited about getting Jim scheduled. That's going to be later in this month, so check that out. And Caffeine Quarantine Chat with the Chamber is something we're doing weekly to keep people in touch. So if you ever have the need to hop on and touch base with anyone on our staff or others in the community, please do so. You're always welcome to. The dates may fluctuate, whether it be a Tuesday or Wednesday or whatnot. But we do keep those posted on our website, so check that out. So does anyone have any last questions or thoughts you care to add before we adjourn?
Brian, what I would like to see you in these caffeine and quarantine events have one of your committee chairs, like Charles All, talk about their committee, transportation and infrastructure, which I'm interested in. What is it? What's the current status of the committee? What are your plans? That kind of thing. You don't have to spend a lot of time, but have a few slides that people can look at and understand what's going on in their committee.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could probably touch on that right now. Charles, if you want to give an update on some of this work the committees are doing, I think we have a couple minutes if you want to chime in.
Yeah, sure. So just kind of give everybody context here. We actually have about 6 what we call issue advisory committees. And the job of these committees is to help us take positions on local, state, and federal public policy issues. So those committees generally meet about twice a year with some exceptions. We have a transportation infrastructure committee that David mentioned. We have an education and workforce, business competitiveness, bi-state issues, healthcare, and then energy and environment. Some of those groups meet more often than twice a year. We just finished up our spring meetings where we talked mostly about federal issues. And so those groups all kind of got together and hammered out stuff that they want us to work on or that we want to work on together as a chamber at the federal level. So we just wrapped those up. Those are open to all of our members. If you are interested in serving on one of these committees, I like to describe it as a high impact, low effort type opportunity because it's not going to take up a massive amount of your time. You do get a little bit of extra access, I would add on top of that. We do sort of periodic calls with state legislators or even federal elected officials, and sometimes we only open those up to folks that are volunteering on these committees. So it is a great opportunity if you want to get some kind of sort of inside knowledge, see a little bit inside baseball. These are great opportunities to get involved. And all you got to do is just email me and I'll add you to our distribution list and you get access to all that information. The only thing we ask in return is you just engage with us in these committees and tell us your thoughts on public policy issues, which I think is a pretty good deal. We really do need to hear from folks. Otherwise, we're kind of just shooting from the hip when it comes to public policy. So, these committees, we're going to reconvene them in the fall, likely August or September, and we're going to focus on state issues. And those are going to be extremely important conversations because our Indiana and Kentucky legislatures, they go back into session in January. Obviously, a lot's going to transpire between now and January, and we need to have all of our ducks in a row and ready to advocate the stuff that our business community needs. So those are going to be exceptionally important meetings, I think, that we're going to be holding in August and September for these groups. But like I said, if you're interested in joining these, please let me know. In terms of the larger structure, these committees report to a public policy council. Public policy council is a much more exclusive group. It's open to only select investors. We have a nominating committee. It's a very rigorous process that you have to go through to get into our public policy council, and then the public policy council will go to our board of directors. And so we have this sort of hierarchical process for developing public policy issues that plugs in a lot of different levels of our membership at GLI. And it's been a really functional process. It's worked really well for us, and I think served the business community well.
Excellent. Thank you, Charles.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Charles. The only other thing, Brian, that I thought we could mention is we do, like we said, do these weekly. We'd be super appreciative if you all could take the survey. We'll send it out. I also just put it in the chat. It just helps us improve these, see what our members are looking for, and just help us continually provide good content and platforms for you all to engage. So we'll send it out. You'll receive an email from Miriam Nally on our events team, and you'll also receive an email from Jordan Clemens, who had to hop off here, like I said, with all of the resources that we talked about, and everyone's LinkedIn, so that you all can stay connected after the call. So that was the only other thing that I thought we could mention.
All right. Well, again, it was great connecting with everyone this morning. Please don't hesitate to reach out our way if we may be of any assistance. And everyone enjoy your Wednesday. Stay safe.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you,
Charles,
all.
Great to
I
meet
would
you.
like to get involved in the Transportation Infrastructure Committee. How do I do that?
I think we'll connect you with Charles,
muted,
David.
Charles.
So we'll make sure that you all are on the same email and that he'll get you started on that process. Thank you. Have a great day.